What's up, YouTube? I was sent an Ausdom dash camera. This guy right here. Basically for an honest review. I don't know if that's actually how you pronounce it, but it's Ausdom, so I'm calling it Ausdom. And to be honest, I've never had a real dash cam before. I've only used other cheap cameras, but I've always wanted one. This is gonna be awesome. I've had it for a couple of weeks now, and really all I've done is just kind of left it in the window and kind of forget about it. Alright, let me show you all the stuff that came with the camera, and then I'll go over some of the settings and features, and then I'll tell you what I think about it, and then that'll be it. Alright, so what you see in front of you is everything that comes with the camera. Over here on the right we get the window suction cup, the USB car charger, a smaller USB cable which you can use to plug into the camera and your computer if you wanted to retrieve the files off of it that way. Or you could use this cable right here, which is technically the one that you would use inside the car because this one is 12 feet long. It'll reach all the way to the back window if you want it to, but you might as well leave this one in the car because you're most likely going to tuck it behind any sort of trim or bezel work or anything like that. So this is an Ausdom dashboard camera. It has a 180-degree wide-angle lens, has a microphone down here on the lower side, and a speaker up here on the top side. One side is where you'd plug in your USB cable, reset button, and you could technically also hook up this to an external monitor if you needed to do that as well. And the other side's got the power button and the SD card slot. It's got a 2-inch LCD right here on the back. Down here on the bottom you have 4 buttons. The first one is a back button, up button, down button, and OK. 2 little holes up here, those are just little LEDs to let you know that it's charging and or recording. Alright, so we'll go through a couple of the features here. We'll just turn it on by the side button here. It's gonna start recording, so I'm gonna stop that real quick. Alright, so to navigate through all the settings, there's the little menu button right here on the side, so you hit the little back button here. And you have a whole bunch of different video options. 1280 by 720, 60 frames per second. You got 1280 by 720, 30p, 1920 by 1080 at 30p. Hdr mode, which is another setting which I use a lot, mainly for in-town driving. HDR is more of like an automatic. It does good for light and dark settings. 1920 by 1080 at 45p, 2304 by 1296 at 30p, and 2560 by 1080 at 30p. Next option is recycle mode, and this is basically how long you want each video to play. The settings are 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, and off. I just leave mine at 5. Next option is park mode. Park mode is whenever you turn off the car, the camera will shut down, but it's technically not shut down. Basically, if somebody hits your car, it'll start recording for another 20 seconds or so, and then after that it'll shut back off. And park mode is either on or off, and you can set the sensibility, which is coming up in just a few more options. Image quality, this is basically if you want to take pictures, you can do it in superfine, fine, or normal. Microphone you can turn on or off. You can do a timestamp, and that can be the date, time, or driver ID. Driver ID is basically your own like license plate number or some other number if you want to assign a number. I just typically leave it on date and time, and if you wanted to add a driver ID setting, you can go ahead and enter it there. The next setting is the G sensor setting, and this is if somebody did happen to hit your car while you're not around, and that's basically just going to be how sensitive the camera is to any sort of like vibration or shock. I typically leave it on the medium setting, and that's just if I shut off the car, get out of the vehicle, and then shut the car door. I don't want it to turn back on, so I usually leave it on medium. You can adjust the white balance, EV balance, your language, and you can set up the time here. You can turn the beep sound on and off, which I usually keep it off. It has an auto power off setting. Basically, if there's nothing happening or the G sensor is not tripped, you can auto power off the camera in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 1 minute. I just leave it on 3. Also, you can change the backlight setting, which is basically shutting off the screen while you drive, and that's kind of good for nighttime. So you don't have a brighter light shining in front of you, so you can turn that off in a 3-minute delay or normally on. I do a 3-minute delay. Now, FCWS, LDWS detect, it could be a useful feature if maybe you are more of a clumsy driver or if you just needed a little extra help in your driving. FCWS stands for Forward Collision Warning System. All it basically does is there's a couple settings in here which I'll show you here in just a second. Basically all that does is let you know how close you are getting to the next car that's in front of you, and if you do get too close it'll make like a warning beep. And LDWS stands for Land Departure Warning System. And all that pretty much does is it lets you know if you start drifting in your lane. It'll do another warning sound. I have actually not used that yet. There's also 3 different settings for this, which is high speed, clear road, and busy road. And to set that up, what it tells you to do, there's a pink line here and a red line right here. You adjust the pink line here up or down. You basically set that pink line on the horizon where the road meets the sky. And you press the back button over here and you pretty much set the red line to the top of your hood. And that's it. I'm not sure how this detects lane changes, but it does. It can also tell you how big the memory card is in there. And if you wanted to be reminded for how long you've been driving, you can set that up as well. And those options are 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and 4 hours. I have not used that option at all. And if you ever need to revert it back to default settings, you can do that in there as well. And it also tells you your version info. There is one other thing I forgot to mention in your video resolution. If you are set up on HDR mode, some of the settings go away, which are like the white balance, the EV balance, that LDWS/FCWS. I'm not sure if they're actually disabled or not, but you can't adjust them if you're in the HDR mode. Alright, so I'll give you an example of how this G sensor setting works. I'm going to set it on very high. To turn it off, you hold down for 5 seconds. Alright, so we're going to act like the car just got hit. I'm going to just tap the side here. We're on high setting. And you can see the camera turned on all by itself and immediately started recording. And this will record for about 20 seconds and then shut back off. Basically all I would do is try it on each setting and figure out what works for you. I leave mine on the medium setting. Also, after that G setting sensor is tripped and the camera records for its 20 seconds and shuts off, it goes into a locked folder, so you basically cannot record over that video. You have to actually manually delete it yourself. This camera also will do cycle recording, so it'll basically just keep on recording depending on how many minutes you set it up for. I've got mine set up for 5 minutes. It'll just keep loop recording and it doesn't miss a beat. All in all, I'm pretty impressed with this camera. Like I said before, it is my very first dash camera. I don't have really anything to compare it to. All I've used before for a dash camera is one of my older SJ9000 cameras, which is basically a GoPro knockoff, and those seem to work okay, but this thing knocks it out of the water. Alright, so here is some of the video footage. Alright, so to be honest, I'm actually really impressed with this camera because it's super simple to set up, and once you stick it to your windshield, you kind of forget about it. The only time you ever hear it is when it turns on or shuts off. That's it. And I do really like how when you turn on the car, it'll automatically turn on and start recording. And when you're done, you shut off the car, it stops recording and shuts off. But that only works if your car's set up to do that. I have an older vehicle, so mine doesn't actually do that. I actually have to keep it plugged in and then unplug it whenever I'm done. Maybe I'll try to fix that later on. The only thing I did not like about this dash cam is it did not come with an SD card. I actually had to go out and buy one myself. Alright, well if you guys liked the video, make sure you check out the link below. They are on Amazon. You get all sorts of super simple settings that you can set once and pretty much leave it. I'm pretty impressed with it. I like it a lot. Alright, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. And then I'll go over some of the Ausdom what are these? And the kit. Or and G-Shock sensor turned on as soon as I set it down. That's sensitive.